Hi guys, let's start ABHYAAS Test 2 for UPSC Prelims 2020 from VISION IAS. So, the first question is number 1. While the Model Code of Conduct is in force in the country, which of the following measures can be taken by the government without the prior approval of the Election Commission? Number 1. Announcement of taxation related to fiscal measures by the Ministry of Finance. Number 2. Decisions on monetary policy related issues by RBI. Number 3. Undertaking new projects under MG Narega by sanctioning additional funds. Number 4. Determining the minimum support price of wheat and other agricultural products. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 2 only. So the correct statement is 2, that is decisions on monetary policy related issues by RBI. Model Code of Conduct is a set of guidelines issued by the Election Commission of India for the conduct of political parties and candidates during elections, mainly with respect to speeches, polling day, polling booth, portfolios, election manifesto, processions, and general conduct. These sets of norms have been evolved with the consensus of political parties. The Election Commission has clarified that while the Model Code of Conduct is in force, the first one is RBI may continue to take decisions unhindered on monetary policy issues. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Number 2, Ministry of Finance and other ministries will need to take prior approval of the Election Commission on any policy announcements, fiscal measures, taxation related issues, and such other financial relief. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. Number 3. New projects under MG Narega that may be mandated under the provisions of the Act may be taken up only if it is for the already registered beneficiaries and the project is already listed in the approved and sanctioned shelf of projects for which funds are also already earmarked. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Next, we have number 4. The minimum support price of wheat and other agricultural products can be determined only by making a reference in the matter to the Election Commission. Hence, statement 4 is not correct. Now, let's come to question number 2. Which of the following are the correct reasons for the month of June being warmer in India? Number 1. The sun is overhead, so rays fall almost vertically. Number 2. The sun is closer to Earth in June as compared to December. Number 3. Days are longer in summer than in winter. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D, that is 1 and 3 only. Number 1, the sun is overhead, so rays fall almost vertically. Number 3, days are longer in summer than in winter. June month in the northern hemisphere is summertime. In summer, the sun is higher in the sky than in winter. When the sun is overhead, its rays fall almost vertically on the earth, concentrating its heat on a small area. Temperature therefore rises and summers are always warm. In winters, the oblique rays of the sun come through the atmosphere less directly and have much of their heat absorbed by atmospheric impurities and water vapor. The sun's rays fall faintly and spread over a great area. There is thus little heat and temperatures remain low. Hence statement 1 is correct. In addition, days are longer than nights in summer and more heat is received over the longer sunlight duration. Nights are shorter and less heat is lost. There is a net gain in total heat received and temperature rises in summer. Shorter days and longer nights in winter account for the reverse effects. Hence statement 3 is correct. The terms perihelion and aphelion describe different points in the Earth's orbit of the Sun. Aphelion is the point of the Earth's orbit that is farthest away from the Sun. Perihelion is the point of the Earth's orbit that is nearest to the Sun. Aphelion always happens in early July, about 2 weeks after the sun solstice. Earth is furthest from the sun. Perihelion always happens in early January, about 2 weeks after the December solstice. Earth is closest to the sun. Therefore, Earth is closer to the sun in December as compared to June. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Now let's come to question number 3. Consider the following statements. Number 1. Renewable energy sources account for more than 30% of India's total electricity generation. Number 2. Till recently, India imported electricity to meet the shortages, but now India is self-sufficient and no longer imports electricity. Number 3. At present, there is only one operational power exchange in India. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is A. That is one only. So only statement 1 is correct. India is the world's third largest producer and third largest consumer of electricity. The national electric grid in India has an installed capacity of 368.79 gigawatt as of 31st December 2019. Now let's come to the fuel and its electricity generation. Thermal, it would be 2,30,700. Hydro, which is renewable, it would be 45,399. For nuclear, it will be 6,780, and other renewable source, it would be 84,400. And so the total would be 3,67,281. In March 2019, Government of India brought all hydro projects of more than 25 megawatt. So far, only hydropower projects of under 25 megawatt capacity were considered in the renewable category. So the hydropower projects of more than 25 megawatt capacity under the renewable category. Hence, electricity generated from renewable sources accounts for 35.3% of total electricity. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Though India is largely self-sufficient in electricity, it still does cross-border electricity trade. India's power trade with its neighbors is largely one-sided. The country annually imports around 1,200 megawatt power from Bhutan, exports 1,200 megawatt to Bangladesh, exports 450 megawatt to Nepal and 3 megawatt to Myanmar. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. The Central Electricity Regulatory Commission (CERC) has approved recently in August for setting up of a third power exchange platform in the country. Floating floated by Power Trading Corporation of India Limited, that is PTC India. CERC, however, has asked PTC India to comply with power market regulations before the regulator grants registration. India has two power exchanges, that is India Energy Exchange, that is IEX, and Power Exchange India, that is PXIL. Power exchange facilitates over-the-counter sale and purchase of power via different types of contracts like day-ahead, term ahead, renewable energy certificates, and recently introduced real-time electricity market. Recently, two exchanges, that is Indian Energy Exchange IEX and Power Exchange of India Limited, that is PXIL, are in operation in India, which facilitate an automated online platform for physical day-ahead contracts. They offer an opportunity to trade in electricity contracts, renewable energy certificates, energy saving certificates, etc. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Now, let's come to question number 4. Polymerase chain reaction has gained popularity in recent times. Why? Number 1, it allows the rapid amplification of DNA fragments. Number 2, it allows sensitive detection of decomposer microorganisms in toxic waste. Number 3, it can be used to detect HIV infection at an early phase even before antibodies are formed. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, 3. So all the statements are correct. Recently, the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, has recommended only reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, that is RT-PCR test for novel coronavirus testing. Researchers at the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, that is CCMB, have developed a new low-cost and low-tech required test for SARS-CoV-2 testing. This test is known as reverse transcription nested PCR or RT-PCR test. PCR stands for polymerase chain reaction. In this reaction, multiple copies of the gene or DNA of interest is synthesized in vitro using two sets of primers, that is small chemically synthesized oligonucleotides that are complementary to the regions of DNA, and enzyme DNA polymerase. The enzyme extends the primers using the nucleotides provided in the reaction and the genomic DNA as template. If the process of replication of DNA is repeated many times, the segment of DNA can be amplified to approximately billion times. That is 1 billion copies are made. Such repeated amplification is achieved by the use of thermostable DNA polymerase that is isolated from a bacterium, Thermus aquaticus, which remains active during the high temperature induced denaturation of double-stranded DNA. Some of the key applications of PCR in the field of genetic research, medicine, forensic science, and environmental microbiology are Number 1. Genetic research. Rapid amplification of tiny fragments of DNA, study of gene expression patterns, DNA sequencing, using which segments of DNA from an area of interest, augmenting the traditional method of DNA cloning by amplifying tiny DNA segments for introduction into a vector. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Next, we have medicine. Organisms such as Mycobacterium tuberculosis can be studied effectively with the help of genotyping. This allows early identification and treatment and greatly impacts public health monitoring. Next, in virology, PCR helps detect and characterize the nucleic acids of viruses, which enabled comprehensive viral characterization and a greater understanding of the virus behavior during infection. For instance, PCR is used to detect HIV infection at an early phase even before the antibodies are formed. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Next, we have forensic science. During DNA fingerprinting, tiny fragments of DNA can be isolated from a crime scene and compared to a huge database of DNA of convicts or criminals. Next, we have PCR technique has been successfully used to explore many issues in environmental microbiology, such as sensitive detection of degrading microorganisms in toxic waste. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Although PCR is a valuable technique, it does have limitations. Because PCR is a highly sensitive technique, any form of contamination of the sample by even trace amounts of DNA can produce misleading results. In addition, in order to design primers for PCR, some prior sequence data is needed. Therefore, PCR can also be used to identify the presence or absence of a known pathogen or gene. Now let's come to question number 5. Consider the following statements with reference to the Disorders Enquiry Committee of 1919, which was set up after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Number 1, it was chaired by William Hunter. Number 2, it was an Old English committee. Number 3, Congress boycotted this committee. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is A. That is 1 and 3 only. After the terrible massacre at Jallianwala Bagh on 13th April 1919, the Governor-General in Council on 14th October 1919 decided to appoint a committee to investigate the disturbances in Punjab, Delhi and Bombay and pinpoint their causes and measures taken to cope with them. Okay, so it was decided that a committee will be appointed to investigate the disturbances in Punjab, Delhi and Bombay and pinpoint their causes and measures taken to cope with them. This was Disorders Enquiry Committee, famously known as the Hunter Committee from the name of its chairman. Hence, statement 1 is correct. On that fateful day, at least 1,000 people, including women, children, and the elderly, died, and another 1,500 were injured. On the orders of General Dyer, members of committee were, we have the chairman, who is Lord William Hunter. Next is W.F. Rice. Next we have Justice G.C. Rankin. Then we have General Sir George Barrow. Then we have Sir Jinmanlal Satalwad. Then we have Pandit Jagat Narayan. Then we have Sardar Sultan Ahmed Khan. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. General Dyer appeared before the Commission on 19th November. He stated that he had planned to fire at the crowd not just to disperse but to instill a moral impact so as to prevent a mutiny. The Commission submitted its report on 26 May 1920. In it, the majority of the members reprimanded Dyer for a mistaken concept of duty. It concluded that the gathering was not the result of a conspiracy by Indians. Martial law declared in Punjab was justified. It also concluded that Dyer firing at the mob was justified except that he should have given a warning first and that the duration of the firing should have been shortened. A minority report was submitted by the Indian members of the Commission who questioned the need for martial law at the time and also contested on the severity of the disturbances. The Indian leaders on their part show the Hunter Committee as a child of the ruling authority. The Congress boycotted the committee. As a consequence of the boycott, it was decided to set up a parallel non-official enquiry committee of which Gandhi, C.R. Das, Abbas S. Taibji, M.R. Jayakar and K. Santanam were to be the members. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to question number 6. Which of the following is not a feature of Plastic Waste Management and Handling Rules 2016? Number A. They are promulgated under the provision of the Environment Protection Act 1986. Number B. These rules have introduced a collect-back system of plastic waste by the producers. Number C. These rules are applicable to both urban and rural areas. Number D. These rules have mandated carry bags made of recycled plastic for storing or packaging ready-to-eat food stuff. So the answer is D. Option D. So, it is not a feature of the Plastic Waste Management and Handling Rules of 2016. These rules have mandated carry bags made of recycled plastic for storing or packaging ready-to-eat foodstuff. So, this is wrong. Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016 was notified to replace the earlier Plastic Waste Management and Handling Rules 2011. These rules are formulated in the exercise of the powers conferred by Sections 6, 8 and 25 of the Environment Protection Act 1986. Hence, option A is correct. Some of the features of these rules are some of the features of the rules are: number 1, expand the jurisdiction of applicability from the municipal area to rural areas because plastic has reached rural areas also. Hence, option C is correct. Number 2, to bring in the responsibilities of producers and generators both in the plastic waste management system and to introduce collect-back system of plastic waste by the producers or brand owners as per extended producers responsibility. Hence, option B is correct. Number 3, to promote use of plastic waste for road construction, energy recovery, or waste to oil, etc., for gainful utilization of waste and also address the waste disposal issue. Number 4, the manufacture, importer, stocking, distribution, sale and use of carry bags, plastic sheets or like, or cover made of plastic sheets and multi-layered packaging shall be subject to the following conditions, namely, carry bags and plastic packaging shall either be in natural shade, which is without any added pigments, or made using only those pigments and colorants which are in conformity with Indian standards, titled as List of Pigments and Colorants for Use in Plastics in Contact with Foodstuffs, Pharmaceuticals and Drinking Water, as amended from time to time. Carry bags made of recycled plastic or products made of recycled plastic shall not be used for storing, carrying, dispensing or packaging ready to eat or drink foodstuff. Hence option D is not correct. Carry bag made of virgin or recycled plastic shall not be less than 50 microns in thickness. The provision of thickness shall not be applicable to carry bags made up of compostable plastic. Carry bags made from compostable plastics shall conform to the Indian standards, titled as Specifications for Compostable Plastics as amended from time to time. The manufacturer shall not sell or provide or arrange plastic to be used as raw material to a producer not having valid registration from the concerned state pollution control boards or pollution control committee. Sachets using plastic material shall not be used for storing, packing or selling gutkha, tobacco and pan masala. Recycling of plastic waste shall conform to the Indian standard, titled as Guidelines for Recycling of Plastics as amended from time to time. The manufacturers or seller of compostable plastic carry bags shall obtain a certificate from the Central Pollution Control Board before marketing or selling. Now let's come to question number 7. Which of the following are the expected outcomes of the National Broadband Mission launched recently by the Government of India? Number 1, providing last mile connectivity and broadband services to all villages by 2022. Number 2, providing infrastructure capable of delivering higher speeds of broadband up to 500 Gbps. Number 3, reducing the number of fiberized telecom towers in the country. Number 4, incentivizing domestic manufacturing and homegrown broadband products in the network. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C, that is 1 and 4 only. So the correct answer is 1 and 4 only. The Ministry of Communications has launched National Broadband Commission, a national broadband mission that will facilitate universal and equitable access to broadband services across the country, especially in rural and remote areas. The mission is part of the National Digital Communications Policy 2018. The vision of the mission is to fast-track growth of digital communications infrastructure, bridge the digital divide, facilitate digital empowerment and inclusion, and provide affordable and universal access of broadband for all. Outcomes of National Broadband Mission are envisaged to fulfill the vision of broadband for all and fulfill the goals of the National Digital Communications Policy 2018. The outcomes and deliverables of the missions are: number 1, all villages to be to have access to broadband by 2022. To institutionalize public-private partnerships for leveraging the optical fiber network laid under BharatNet and to provide last-mile connectivity and broadband services to all villages by 2022, utilizing appropriate technologies including optical fiber, radio networks, and satellite. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Number 2, availability of high broadband speeds. To provide infrastructure capable of delivering higher speeds of broadband up to 50 Mbps in a phased manner at par with those of emerging and developed countries and with availability across the country, wherever necessary. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Number 3, to enhance connectivity and improve quality of service by increasing tower density. To increase the tower density to be at par with countries leading in telecom infrastructure, the existing tower density is 0.42 towers per thousand population with around 5.65 lakh towers. This needs to be increased to 1.0 per thousand population with setting up of an additional 10 lakh towers. Number 4, increase fiberization of telecom towers to increase by around 2.5 times the number of fiberized telecom towers in the country. At present, around 30% of telecom towers are connected on fiber, which needs to be enhanced to at least 70% of the towers to be fiberized. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Number 5. Facilitate a rollout of 5G network and strengthening of 4G network to address high bandwidth required for development of 5G networks. Next, we have promote Make in India to promote domestic manufacturing through participation of private players through appropriate policy measures to enable proliferation of wireless broadband services and to incentivize homegrown broadband products in the network through large-scale trials and deployment. Hence, statement 4 is correct. Now let's come to question number 8. Which of the following is or are correct with reference to the PM CARES Fund? Number 1, it is a dedicated fund for dealing with public health emergencies only. Number 2, the fund consists entirely of voluntary contributions from individuals or organizations and does not get any budgetary support. Number 3, it cannot accept donations and contributions from individuals and organizations based in foreign countries. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is 2 only. The fund consists entirely of voluntary contributions from individuals or organizations and does not get any budgetary support. Keeping in mind the need for having a dedicated national fund with the primary objective of dealing with any kind of emergency or distress situation like posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and to provide relief to the affected. A public charitable trust made under the name of Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situations Fund, that is PM CARES Fund, has been set up. So what are its objectives? We have got 3 objectives. Number 1, to undertake and support relief or assistance of any kind relating to a public health emergency or any other kind of emergency, calamity or distress. either man-made or natural, including the creation or upgradation of healthcare or pharmaceutical facilities, other necessary infrastructure, funding, relevant research, or any other type of support. Number two, to render financial assistance, provide grants of payments of money or take such other steps as may be deemed necessary by the Board of Trustees to the affected population. Number three, to undertake any other activity which is not inconsistent with the above objects. Now let's come to primary, this one, PM cares. Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman of the PM Cares Fund, and Minister of Defence, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Finance, Government of India are ex officio trustees of the fund. The fund consists entirely of voluntary contributions from individuals or organizations and does not get any budgetary support. The fund will be utilized in meeting the objectives as stated above. Donations to PM Cares Fund would qualify for 80G benefits for 100% exemption under the Income Tax Act 1961. Donations to PM Cares Fund will also qualify to be counted as corporate social responsibility (CSR) expenditure under the Companies Act 2013. PM Cares Fund has also got exemption under the FCRA, and a separate account for receiving foreign donations has been opened. This enables PM Cares Fund to accept donations and contributions from individuals and organizations based in foreign countries. This is consistent with respect to the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund (PMNRF). PMNRF has also received foreign contributions as a public trust since 2011. Now let's come to question number 9. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, what will be the impact on India? Number 1, access to Chabahar port is blocked. Number 2, natural gas directly from Farzad B gas fields cannot be transported to India through the sea route. Number 3, India's direct sea route trade with Qatar would be halted. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is B, that is 2 and 3 only. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 and 3 only. The Strait of Hormuz is a strait between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It provides the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean and is one of the world's most strategically important choke points. On the north coast lies Iran and on the south coast the United Arab Emirates and Mossadegh and exclave of Oman. Statement 1 is not correct. Chabahar port is located on the Makran coast of Baluchistan province next to the Gulf of Oman and at the mouth of Strait of Hormuz. It is the only Iranian port with direct access to the Indian Ocean. If Hormuz Strait is blocked, access to Chabahar port would not be blocked as it has direct access to Indian Ocean and does not require passage of Hormuz Strait to reach it. In 2016, India and Iran signed a bilateral agreement in which India would refurbish one of the berths at Shahid Beheshti port and reconstruct a 600-meter-long container handling facility at the port. The port is partly intended to provide an alternative for trade between India and Afghanistan. Statements 2 and 3 are correct. Farzad B gas fields is the gas field which is located in the Persian Gulf under the control of Iranian sovereignty, and India is processing on acquisition and exploration of this. Qatar is located in the northeast coast of the Arabian Peninsula. Its sole land border is with Saudi Arabia to the north, with the rest of its territory surrounded by the Persian Gulf. As Hormuz Strait is the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, blockade of Hormuz would mean sea route access to the gas field, and Qatar is lost. Recently, in July 2020, Iran has ended its agreement with India over the development of the second phase of the Chabahar port and the Farzad B block, in a development which is being seen as the soaring of ties between the two countries. Now let's come to question 10. Which of the following was not a prominent feature of the Gandhara school of art? Number A. It chiefly used grey sandstone as the material for sculpting. Number B. This school of art was reasonably influenced by the classical Greek culture. Number C. It modeled Buddha on the lines of the Yaksha images of the Mauryan period. Number D. It shows Buddha in both Abhaya Mudra and Dhyana Mudra. So, not a prominent feature of the Gandhara school of art. The correct answer is C. The correct answer means not a prominent feature of the Gandhara school of art is that it modeled Buddha on the lines of the Yaksha images of the Mauryan period. Gandhara school of art was also called the Greco-Buddhist school of art. It was a manifestation of Greco-Buddhism and a syncretism between the classical Greek culture and Buddhism, which developed over a period of close to 1,000 years in Central Asia, between the conquest of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC and the Islamic conquest of the 7th century AD. Hence, option B is correct. Gandhara style of art that developed in sculpture was a fusion of Greco-Roman and Indian styles. Gandhara school was heavily influenced by Greek methodologies. The figures were more spiritual and sculpted mainly in grey sandstone, and great detail was paid to the exact depiction of body parts. The Gandharan Buddha image was inspired by Hellenistic realism, tempered by Persian, Scythian, and Parthian models. Hence, option A is correct. The theme is mostly Buddhist, depicting various stories from the life of Buddha. Sculptors constructed Buddhist images with anatomical accuracy, spatial depth, and foreshortening. The images of Buddha resembled Greek god Apollo. Buddha's curls were altered into wavy hair. The Buddha of Gandhara art is sometimes very thin, which is opposite in Mathura art. More stress is given to bodily features and external beauty. Buddha is depicted in all the four important mudras, that is, hand gestures in the Gandhara art, which are as follows. Number 1, Abhaya Mudra, do not fear. Number 2, Dhyana Mudra, that is, meditation. Number 3, Dharma Chakra Mudra, a preaching mudra. Then number 4, Bhumish Parsha Mudra. So Bhumish Parsha Mudra, touching the earth. Hence option D is correct. Buddha images in Gandhara school of art has Hellenistic features, while in the Mathura school of art the Buddha images are modeled on the lines of Yaksha and Yakshi of the Mauryan period. Hence option C is not correct. And as it is not a feature, this is the right answer. So C is the right answer. Now let's come to question number 11. Question number 11. Consider the following statements with respect to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, that is UN clause, UNCLOS. Number 1. All the members of the United Nations are parties to the convention. Number 2. The International Seabed Authority was established under the provisions of the convention. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. That is 2 only. Only statement 2 is correct. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, that is UN clause, is an international treaty which was adopted and signed in 1982. It replaced the four Geneva Conventions of April 1958, which respectively concerned the territorial sea and the contiguous zone, the continental shelf, the high seas, fishing, and conservation of living resources on the high seas. The convention came into effect in November 1994. It now has 168 parties, including the European Union, for its share of jurisdictions. All the members of the UN are not parties to the convention. For example, USA is the most important non-subscriber to the UN clause, solely due to its strong opposition to the regime concerning exploitation of non-natural resources on the seabed beyond national jurisdiction. Hence statement 1 is not correct. The convention has created three new institutions on the international scene. Number 1, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. Number 2, the International Seabed Authority. Hence statement 2 is correct. And number 3, we have the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. So what are its salient features? We have four salient features. The first one is every state has the right to establish the breadth of its territorial sea up to a limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles from the baseline. Number 2, coastal states have sovereign rights in a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone measured from baseline with respect to natural resources and certain economic activities and exercise jurisdiction over maritime science, research and environmental protection. Number 3, states are bound to prevent and control marine pollution and are liable for damage caused by violation of their international obligations to combat such pollution. Number 4, disputes can be submitted to the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea established under the Convention, to the International Court of Justice, or to arbitration. Conciliation is also available, and in certain circumstances, submission to it would be compulsory. The tribunal has exclusive jurisdiction over deep seabed mining disputes. Now let's come to question number 12. Which of the following statements is correct about the Indian National Congress (INC)? Number A. The Indian National Congress was declared illegal for the first time during the non-cooperation movement. Number B. While the Indian National Congress rejected the August offer, it did not object to the Cripps proposals. Number C. The INC boycotted all the three roundtable conferences. Number D. Jawaharlal Nehru was the only leader to have presided over annual INC sessions before and after the Indian independence. So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D. That is, Jawaharlal Nehru was the only leader to have presided over annual INC sessions before and after the Indian independence. A new leash of life was given to the INC with the emergence of Mahatma Gandhi on the scene. For the first time, the commoners took part in nationwide movements, thus making the Indian national movement a mass movement. The non-cooperation movement, initiated in 1920, was the first pan-India movement that witnessed participation of the masses on a scale like never before. But Gandhiji, an ardent believer of non-violence, had to call off the movement in the middle after the Chauri Chaura incident in 1922. During the movement, however, the Indian National Congress was never declared illegal. It was declared illegal by the British government during the civil disobedience movement in 1932, and that was accompanied by the arrest of Mahatma Gandhi. Hence, option A is not correct. The Indian National Congress rejected both August offer and objected to the proposals by the Cripps Mission. It rejected the August offer at its meeting at Wardha in August 1940. Jawaharlal Nehru remarked that the dominion status concept was as dead as a doornail. The Cripps plan was rejected by Congress because it did not grant responsible cabinet government at the center even without defense during the war. The veto of ministerial decisions was to continue, and the India Office was also to retain control of Indian affairs in London. Hence, option B is not correct. The INC did not take part in either the first Roundtable Conference or the third Roundtable Conference, but it did take part in the second Roundtable Conference with Mahatma Gandhi as its representative. Hence, option C is not correct. Jawaharlal Nehru presided over the INC session both before and after independence. He presided over the INC sessions in the following years: 1929, 1936, 1937, 1951, 1953, 1954, and he is the only leader to have done so. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 13. Consider the following pairs of regions or towns frequently in the news and their countries. Town or region, and we have the country. Number 1, Al-Ghamar, Afghanistan. Number 2, Khuzestan, Iran. Number 3, Idlib, Syria. Number 4, Kashgar, China. Which of the pairs given above are correctly matched? The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 2, 3, 4. So 2, 3, 4 are correct. Al-Ghamar is an area in Aqaba Governorate of Jordan. So Al-Ghamar is an area in Aqaba Governorate of Jordan and not Afghanistan. So pair 1 is wrong. The enclaves of Al-Bakora and Al-Ghamar are under Jordanian sovereignty, while Israeli farmers maintained access to the land. Recently, Jordan has pulled out of a 25-year-old landmarked agreement that allowed Israeli farmers to cultivate in the 2 pieces of agricultural lands. Hence, pair 1 is not correctly matched. Khuzestan province is one of the 31 provinces of Iran. It is in the southwest of the country, bordering Iraq and the Persian Gulf. Recently, Iran has discovered a new oil field with over 50 billion barrels of crude in Khuzestan province. Hence, pair 2 is correctly matched. Idlib is a province in northwestern Syria. Idlib is also strategically important to the government. It borders the Turkey to the north and straddles highways running south from the city of Aleppo to the capital Damascus and west to the Mediterranean city of Latakia. The province, along with parts of Hama, Latakia, and Aleppo, is the last stronghold of the rebel and jihadist groups that have been trying to overthrow President Assad since 2011. The opposition once controlled large parts of the country, but the Syrian army has retaken most of the territories over the past 5 years with the help of Russian air power and Iran-backed militiamen. Hence, Pair 3 is correctly matched. Kashgar is one of the westernmost cities of China, near the border with Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and India. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor links China's Kashgar city in Xinjiang province with Pakistan's Gwadar port in Balochistan through a network of roads, railways, and highways. Hence, pair 4 is correctly matched. Now let's come to question number 14. Consider the following statements. Number 1. Like the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act introduced a three-tier structure for urban local bodies. Number 2. The Constitution does not provide for the categorization of the urban local bodies based on the population size. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 2 only. So statement 2 is correct. The Constitution does not provide for the categorization of the urban local bodies based on population size. The 74th Constitutional Amendment, Article 243Q, lays down 3 types of municipal bodies, hence statement 1 is not correct. Nagar Panchayat, by whatever name called. Okay, so it's called Nagar Panchayat. This is for a transitional area which is transforming itself from being a rural area into an urban area. Number 2, we have Municipal Council. This is for a smaller urban area. And number 3, we have Municipal Corporation. This is for a larger urban area. Implicit in the above classification of urban local governments is the recognition of the need for variation in the functional domain and requirements depending on the size of the population they need to serve. Thus, it provides a flexible structure instead of a three-tier structure for urban local bodies. The Constitution does not lay down the parameters for categorizing the urban local bodies into Nagar Panchayat, Municipal Council, and Municipal Corporation, and allows each state to decide, for example, what should be the criteria for classifying an urban center as a town, municipal council, city municipal council, or a municipal corporation. This prevents a uniform pattern of categorization across the states. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Now let's come to question number 15. During an 8-week Bharat Darshan study tour, a group of trainee IAS officers visited several Indian states and came across the following. Number 1. Phulkari embroidered garments, GI tagged. Number 2. Chow dance. Number 3. Gandamal haldi, GI tagged. Consider that the above mentioned were experienced in the respective states of their origin. Which of the following statements is correct? Number A. Neither of the two GI tagged products is from Rajasthan. Number B. The group of IAS officers definitely visited Punjab. Number C. If the type of chow dance they saw did not use mask as a costume, then they had visited West Bengal. Number D. The trainee officers must have had at least one of the three experiences in Orissa. So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D. That is, the trainee officers must have had at least one of the three experiences in Orissa. Fulkari embroidered garments. Fulkari, which literally translates into flower work, is is believed to have been brought to the Indian subcontinent by the migrant Jat people of Central Asia in ancient times. Spun from the charkha, this spectacular style of embroidery is patterned on odhnis, shawls, kurtis, and chunris. The main characteristics of this embroidery are the use of darn stitch on the wrong side of the cloth with a colored silken thread. Although Fulkari is famous for being an essential part of the Punjabi culture, it has received GI, that is Geographical Indication tag, from three Indian states. Example: Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan. Hence option A and B are not correct. Chow dance, which is listed under the UNESCO list of intangible heritages, is a tradition from eastern India that enacts episodes from epics including the Mahabharata and Ramayana, local folklore, and abstract themes. Its three distinct styles hail from the regions of Saraikela, Jharkhand, Purulia, West Bengal, and Mayurbhanj, Orissa, the first two using mask. Chow dance is intimately connected to regional festival, notably the spring festival Chaitra Parva. Its origin is traceable to indigenous forms of dance and martial practices. Its vocabulary of movement includes mock combat techniques, stylized gaits of birds and animals, and movements modeled on the chores of village housewives. Hence, option C is not correct. Next, we have Gandamal turmeric, haldi. Orissa's Gandamal haldi, that is turmeric, is famous for its healing properties, and it is a GI tagged product. The golden yellow spice, named after the district where it is produced, has been cultivated since time immemorial and is known for its medicinal value. It is the main cash crop of tribal people in Kandhamal. Apart from domestic use, turmeric is also used for cosmetic and medicinal purposes. More than 60,000 families, nearly 50% of Kandhamal population, are engaged in growing the variety. The crop is sustainable in adverse climatic conditions. Thus both Chow dance and Gandhamal haldi could have been experienced in Orissa. Hence option D is the correct answer. Question number 16. Which of the following statements is or are correct in the context of the Reserve Bank of India? Number 1. It can prohibit a person or an organization from accepting foreign contribution under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. It monitors the ceilings on FII NRI or PIO investments in Indian companies. Number 3, it is the custodian of the country's foreign exchange reserves. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 2 and 3. The Reserve Bank of India is the custodian of the country's foreign exchange reserves and is vested with the responsibility of managing their investment. The legal provisions governing the management of foreign exchange reserves are laid down in the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. The basic parameters of the Reserve Bank's policies for foreign exchange reserves management are safety, liquidity, and returns. Hence, statement 3 is correct. The Reserve Bank of India monitors the ceilings on FII or NRI or PIO investments in Indian companies on a daily basis. For effective monitoring of foreign investment ceiling limits, the Reserve Bank of India has fixed cut-off points that are 2 percentage points lower than the actual ceilings. The cut-off point, for instance, is fixed at 8% for companies in which NRIs or PIOs can invest up to 10% of the company's paid-up capital. The cutoff limit for companies with a 24% ceiling is 22%, and for companies with a 30% ceiling, it is 28%, and so on. Similarly, the cutoff limit for public sector banks, including State Bank of India, is 18%. Once the aggregate net purchases of equity shares of the company by FIIs or NRIs or PIOs reach the cutoff point, which is 2% below the overall limit, the Reserve Bank cautions all designated bank branches so as not to purchase any more equity shares of the respective company on the behalf of FIIs or NRIs or PIOs without prior approval of the Reserve Bank. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 aims to consolidate the law to regulate the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality by certain individuals or associations or companies and to prohibit acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality for any activities detrimental to the national interest. As per this Act, it is the central government and not the Reserve Bank of India which can prohibit any person or organization from accepting any foreign contribution. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. Now let's come to question number 17. Consider the following statements with reference to the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR. Number 1, it is a statutory body established to promote biomedical research in India. Number 2, the governing body of the council is presided over by the Union Health Minister. Number 3, it lays down policies for regulating medical institutions, medical researchers, and medical professionals. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 2 only. The governing body of the council is presided over by the Union Health Minister. The Indian Council of Medical Research ICMR, New Delhi, the apex body in India for the formulation, coordination, and promotion of biomedical research is one of the oldest medical research bodies in the world. ICMR is neither a statutory body nor a regulatory body. It is only the apex body in India for formulating, coordinating, and promoting biomedical research. It doesn't have the power to directly initiate punitive action. As early as in 1911, Government of India set up the Indian Research Fund Association, that is IRFA, with the specific objective of sponsoring and coordinating medical research in the country. IRFA was registered as a local body not administered by the government on March 22, 1938 under the Government of India Act number 21 of 1860. After independence, several important changes were made in the organization and the activities of the IRFA. It was redesignated in 1949 as the Indian Council of Medical Research (ICMR) with a considerably expanded scope of functions. The ICMR is funded by the Government of India through the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Hence, Statement 1 is not correct. The Council's research priorities coincided with the national health priorities such as control and management of communicable diseases, fertility control, maternal and child health, control of nutritional disorders, developing alternative strategies for healthcare delivery, containment within safety limits of environmental and occupational health problems, research on major non-communicable diseases like cancer, cardiovascular diseases, blindness, diabetes, and other metabolic and hematological disorders, and mental health research and drug research, including traditional remedies. All these efforts are undertaken with a view to reduce the total burden of disease and to promote the health and well-being of the population. The governing body of the Council is presided over by the Union Health Minister. It is assisted in scientific and technical matters by a scientific advisory board comprising eminent experts in different biomedical disciplines. The board, in its turn, is assisted by a series of scientific advisory groups, scientific advisory committees, expert groups, task forces, steering committees, etc., which evaluate and monitor different research activities of the Council. The Council promotes biomedical research in the country through intramural as well as extramural research. Over the decades, the base of extramural research and also its strategies have been expanded by the Council. Hence, Statement 2 is correct. National Medical Commission, established under the National Medical Commission Act 2019, is responsible for laying down policies for maintaining high quality and high standards in medical education and make necessary regulations in this behalf, and lay down policies for regulating medical institutions, medical researchers, and medical professionals, and make necessary regulations in this behalf. Hence, Statement 3 is not correct. So, only Statement 2 is correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 18. Consider the following statements about contempt of court in India. Number 1. As per the Constitution, only the Supreme Court and the High Courts have the power to punish for their contempt, respectively. Number 2. Subordinate courts do not have the power to punish for both civil and criminal contempt. Number 3. Administrative tribunals have the power to punish for their contempt. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3 are all correct. Statement 1 is correct. Under Indian Constitution, Article 129 provides that the Supreme Court shall be a court of record and shall have all the powers of such a court, including the power to punish for contempt of itself. Similarly, Article 215 provides that every High Court shall be a court of record and shall have all the powers of such a court, including the power to punish for contempt of itself. In this regard, Contempt of Courts Act 1971 has been enacted by the Parliament, which encompasses the process, procedure, power and duties with respect to contempt of courts and also provide for definition of contempt. Statement 2 is correct. Every High Court shall have and exercise the same jurisdiction, powers, and authority in accordance with the same procedure and practice in respect of contempts of courts subordinate to it as it has and exercises in respect of contempt of itself. This means that the contempt of subordinate courts is punished by the respective high courts. Statement 3 is correct. According to Administrative Tribunals Act 1985, a tribunal shall have and exercise the same jurisdiction, powers and authority in respect of contempt of itself as a high court has and may exercise, and for this purpose the provisions of the Contempt of Court Act 1971. Now let's come to question number 19. Which of the following is not correct with respect to corporate social responsibility, that is CSR in India? Number A, CSR provisions are applicable to both private and public companies. Number B, the list of activities permitted under CSR is prescribed by the Companies Act 2013. Number C, all the expenses towards CSR are exempted from taxation. Number D, expenditure to build a hospital in Saudi Arabia for the welfare of Indians living there is not counted in CSR. The correct answer is C, means not correct. Okay, so the not correct answer is C. That is, all the expenses towards CSR are exempted from taxation. The corporate social responsibility, that is CSR, concept in India is governed by Section 135 of the Companies Act 2013 and rules made thereunder. The Companies Act 2013 requires companies, both public and private, with number 1, a net worth of INR 500 crore or more, or number 2, an annual turnover of INR 100 crore or more, or number 3, net profit of INR 5 crore or more. Number 4, to spend 2% of their average net profits of the last 3 years on CSR. Other key requirements are number 1, constitution of a CSR committee of the board of directors consisting of 3 or more directors. Number 2, formulation of the corporate social responsibility policy by the board of directors on the recommendation of the CSR committee. Schedule 7 of the Act contains list of activities permitted under CSR activities. The list includes number 1, eradicate hunger, poverty and malnutrition. Number 2, promote health, education, vocational skills, livelihood enhancement projects, and number 3, sanitation, including contribution to Swachh Bharat Kosh. Number 4, equality of gender, women empowerment. Number 5, ensure environmental sustainability, the ecological balance including contribution to Clean Ganga Fund, Swachh Bharat Kosh, SBK. Under the Act, administrative overheads, including salaries paid to regular CSR staff and employees who render services for CSR activities, shall not exceed 5% of total CSR expenditure in one financial year. No specific tax exemptions have been extended to CSR expenditure per se. However, spending on several activities like contributions to Prime Minister's Relief Fund, scientific research, rural development projects, skill development projects, agricultural extension projects, etc., which find place in Schedule 7, already enjoy exemptions under different sections of the Income Tax Act 1961. Hence, statement C is not correct. CSR projects and programs undertaken in India only considered as CSR activity. The following expenses are not covered under CSR. Number 1, activity undertaken outside India. Number 2, CSR projects or programs or activities that benefit only the employees of the company and their families shall not be considered as CSR activities. Number 3, contribution of any amount directly or indirectly to any political party. Number 4, one-off events such as marathons or awards or charitable contribution or advertisement or sponsorships of TV programs, etc. Number 5, expenses incurred by companies for the fulfillment of any act or statute of regulations such as labor laws, Land Acquisition Act, etc., would not count as CSR expenditure under the Companies Act. Question number 20. Arrange the following Indus Valley civilization sites in India from north to south. The first one is Dholavira, number 2, Lothal, number 3, Kalibangan, number 4, Rakhigarhi. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D. That is, the first one is 4, Rakhigarhi. Then next is Kalibangan. Then next we have Dholavira. Then the last one, which is in the southmost, it would be Lothal. The Indus Valley Civilization (IVC) was a Bronze Age civilization in the northwestern regions of South Asia, lasting from 3300 BCE to 1300 BCE, and in its mature form from 2600 BCE to 1900 BCE. The westernmost point was Sukta Jandor in South Baluchistan, while the easternmost point was Alamgirpur in Meerut district of Uttar Pradesh. In the north, it extended to Afghanistan, while in the south, its extent was up at least Maharashtra state. The sites from north to south are: number 1, we have Rakhigarhi, next we have Kalibangan, next we have Dholavira, and the last one is Lothal. So Dholavira, Government of India has submitted recently nomination dossier of Dholavira, a Harappan city of inclusion in the World Heritage List for the year 2020. Hence, the option D is the correct sequence. Now let's come to question number 21. For an astronaut on the moon, why does the sky appears black rather than blue in the daytime? Number A, light undergoes destructive interference in the vicinity of the moon. Number B, due to effect of shadow of Earth. Number C, photons do not travel in vacuum. Number D, moon has no atmosphere. The correct answer is D. that is, moon has no atmosphere. A phenomenon called Relics Scattering. A phenomenon called relic scattering causes light to scatter when it passes through particles that have a diameter one-tenth that of the wavelength of light. Sunlight is made up of different colors, but because of the elements in the atmosphere, the color blue is scattered more efficiently than the other colors, making the sky appear blue. However, the moon does not have an atmosphere, so light is not scattered and the sky appears black. Now let's come to question number 22. With reference to the office of the governor in India, consider the following statements. Number 1. The governor has no fixed term of office as per the constitution. Number 2. Governors can be removed without granting an opportunity to be heard. Number 3. A decision to remove a governor cannot be challenged in a court of law. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 2 only. Governors can't be removed. So governors can't be removed without granting an opportunity to be heard. Statement 1 is not correct. As per Article 155 and Article 156 of the Constitution, a governor of a state is an appointee of the President and he or she holds office during the pleasure of the President. If a governor continues to enjoy the pleasure of the President, he or she can be in office for a term of 5 years. Because the President is bound to act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers under Article 74 of the Constitution. In effect, it is the central government that appoints and removes the governors. Pleasure of the President merely refers to this will and wish of the central government. In 2010, a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court interpreted the provisions related to the removal of the governor and laid down some binding principles. B.P. Singhal versus Union of India. The Supreme Court held, number 1, the President, in effect the central government, has the power to remove a governor at any time without giving him or her any reason and without granting an opportunity to be heard. However, this power cannot be exercised in an arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable manner. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Number 2. The power of removing governors shall only be exercised in rare and exceptional circumstances for valid and compelling reasons. The mere reason that a governor is at variance with the policies and ideologies of the central government, or that the central government has lost confidence in him or her, is not sufficient to remove a governor. Thus, a change in central government cannot be a ground for the removal of governor or to appoint more favorable persons to this post. Number 3. A decision to remove a governor can be challenged in a court of law. In such cases, first the petitioner will have to make a prima facie case of arbitrariness or bad faith on the part of the central government. If a prima facie case is established, the court can require the central government to produce the materials on the basis of which the decision was made in order to verify the presence of compelling reasons. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Now let's come to question number 23. Consider the following statements with respect to India's three-stage program of nuclear power generation. Number 1. The first stage envisages electricity production from the fast breeder reactor. Number 2. The second stage envisages the use of plutonium-239 obtained from the first stage of the reactor operation. Number 3. At present, nuclear reactors of all the three stages of nuclear power generation are operational. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Only statement 2 is correct. That is, the second stage envisages the use of plutonium-239 obtained from the first stage of the reactor operation. India's three-stage nuclear power program was formulated by Homi Bhabha in the 1950s to secure the country's long-term energy independence through the use of uranium and thorium reserves. The three-stage nuclear power program aims to multiply the domestically available fissile resource through the use of natural uranium in pressurized heavy water reactors, followed by the use of plutonium obtained from the spent fuel of pressurized heavy water reactors in fast breeder reactors. Large-scale use of thorium will subsequently follow, making use of the uranium-233 that will be bred in reactors. The utilization of thorium as a practically inexhaustible energy source has been contemplated during the third stage of the Indian nuclear program. Indian nuclear power generation envisages a three-stage program. Number 1, we have the stage 1 pressurized heavy water reactor. Number 2, we have the stage 2 fast breeder reactor. Number 3, we have the stage 3, that is the breeder reactor. Now let's come to stage 1. It envisages pressurized heavy water reactor using number 1 natural U2 as fuel matrix. Number 2, heavy water as moderator and coolant. Hence statement 1 is not correct. Natural uranium isotopic composition is 0.7% fissile, U235, and the rest is U238. In the reactor, the first two plants were of boiling water reactors based on imported technology. Subsequent plants are of PHWR type through indigenous R&D efforts. India achieved complete self-reliance in this technology, and this stage of the program is in the industrial domain. Now let's come to stage 2, that is the fast breeder reactor. India's second stage of nuclear power generation envisages the use of plutonium-239 obtained from the first stage reactor operation as the fuel core in fast breeder reactor, that is FBR. Hence statement 2 is correct. The main features of FBTR are: number 1, plutonium-239 serves as the main fissile element in the FBR. Number 2, a blanket of U238 surrounding the fuel core will undergo nuclear transmutation to produce fresh plutonium-239 as more and more plutonium-239 is consumed during the operation. Number 3, besides a blanket of thorium-232, so a blanket of thorium-232 around the FBR core also undergoes neutron capture reactions leading to the formation of U233. Uranium-233 is the nuclear reactor fuel for the third stage of India's nuclear power program. Now let's come to stage 3, that is the breeder reactor. Number 1. The third phase of India's nuclear power generation program is breeder reactors using uranium-233 fuel. Number 2. India's vast thorium deposits permit the design and operation of U-233 fueled breeder reactors. Number 3. U-233 is obtained from the nuclear transmutation of thorium-232 used as a blanket in the second phase plutonium-239 fueled FBR. Large-scale introduction and utilization of thorium in the program has been contemplated after an adequate inventory of plutonium becomes available from our first breeder reactors, that is FBRs, comprising the second stage of Indian nuclear power program. This will be after a few decades of large-scale deployment of FBRs. Large-scale thorium deployment is also to be expected 3 to 4 decades after the commercial operation of fast breeder reactors. The third stage is not yet operational, hence statement 3 is not correct. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 24. UN Watch, often seen in the news, is number A. A specialized reporting agency of United Nations. Number B. A non-governmental organization to monitor the performance of the United Nations. Number C. An intergovernmental agency to monitor the goals of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. Number D. A division of UN Human Rights Council, that is UNHRC. So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. That is a non-governmental organization to monitor the performance of the United Nations. United Nations Watch is a non-governmental organization based in Geneva, which is in Switzerland, whose mandate is to monitor the performance of the United Nations by the yardstick of its own charter. Hence option B is the correct answer. United Nations Watch was established in 1993 by legendary civil rights activist Morris B. Abraham, the former U.S. permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva. United Nations Watch participates actively at the UN as an accredited NGO in special consultative status to the UN Economic and Social Council, that is ECOSOC, and as an associate NGO to the UN Department of Public Information, that is DPI. It reports regularly to both. United Nations Watch, together with 20 other international NGOs, organizes each year the Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy. Started in 2009, this annual human rights conference brings together well-known human rights defenders, victims, activists, and former political prisoners reported by major media around the world. Now let's come to question number 25. Eco-sensitive zones are areas that act as shock absorbers for the protected areas against any non-forest activity. Which of the following activities are strictly prohibited in eco-sensitive zones? Number 1. Commercial use of firewood. Number 2. Establishment of major hydroelectricity power projects. Number 3. Movement of vehicular traffic at night. Number 4. Rainwater harvesting. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is 1 and 2 only. Eco-sensitive zones, that is ESZ, were formulated by the Ministry of Environment and Forest to ensure that these areas act as shock absorbers for the protected areas against any non-forest activity by way of regulating, managing and prohibiting such activities around ecologically fragile areas. This was a part of the action plan envisaged in the Wildlife Conservation Strategy adopted in 2002. The basic aim of these guidelines was to regulate certain activities around protected areas so as to minimize the negative impacts of activities such as mining, power projects, etc. in the fragile ecosystem encompassing the PAs. According to the guidelines, activities including commercial mining, the setting of sawmills and industries causing pollution, commercial use of firewood, and establishment of major hydropower projects are prohibited in such areas. It also prohibits tourism activities like flying over protected areas in an aircraft or hot air balloon and discharge of effluents and solid waste in natural water bodies or terrestrial areas. Hence options 1 and 2 are correct. Felling of trees. Drastic change in agriculture systems and commercial use of natural water resources, movement of vehicular traffic, groundwater harvesting, and setting up of hotels and resorts are the activities regulated in the areas. Hence, option 3 is not correct. On the other hand, activities permitted in the areas include ongoing agriculture and horticulture practices by local communities, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, adoption of green technology, and use of renewable energy sources. The width of the ESZ and type of regulation differs from one protected area to the other. However, as a general principle, the width of the ESZ is 10 km around the protected area. Hence, option 4 is not correct. So, the correct answer is A, that is 1 and 2 only. So, that's all, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.